If you've ever wondered how to get your images to look like super clear and crisp when you are posting them onto Instagram, then don't worry, because I'm going to show you in this video. First off, I'm just gonna say, holy crap, you guys rock. Thank you so much for the support. If you haven't subscribed yet, then consider doing that, because we just smashed through 1,000 subscribers on this page. That is insane. So thank you for being part of that. But let's get back to the video. So personally, I love using Instagram. I think it's a fantastic tool to share your images and your work with the world. And it's also a fantastic way to build up a portfolio and show off your clients in a really simple way. Personally, I try to maximize the screen real estate when I'm posting an image onto Instagram, because I really like to have as much of my image to be shown on the cell phone. So that is why I'm using the 5:6 crop. So I thought I'd show you the whole process that I take from a raw file to a finished image before I post it on Instagram. So let's jump into Lightroom. I've chosen this image that we are going to use for this example, and this is the raw file that you can see right here. I've done nothing to it. This is taken in the studio, and we're gonna edit this and make it pop so that when we post it on social medias, then everybody's going to go like, oh, look at that. So let's get started. Okay, so the image actually looks really good straight out of camera, but there's a couple of things that we can adjust to it. And the first thing we want to do is up the clarity slider. So we're going to drag this up, and then you can see that the smoke actually comes out and pops really good. So if we drag this back, you can see the difference. So we want to have it at, say, 80%. And then we want to drag down the highlights so that his face isn't so shiny. So we're going to drag down the highlights a little, and possibly somewhere around there. And then we're going to scroll down to the HSL, the color, and then we're going to select the orange, and then we're going to choose the luminance, which is the luminance of his skin. So if we drag this down, you can see that his skin is turning darker or brighter. But we're gonna just turn this down a little. We're gonna drag it down to maybe 11. So there you can see that if we take the before and after, you can see there's already a big difference in the two images. But we're not done. We're gonna edit some more. Next thing we wanna do is drag down the color and the vibrance of the whole thing. So we're gonna scroll all the way down. We're gonna drag down the saturation of the blues, and you can see that it mats out the colors really much, and it gives us this old feeling. But I also see that the matte, the poker matte that is on the table, we need to change that color. So we're gonna scroll up, we're gonna go back to the HSL, and then we're gonna choose the Cyan, and we're gonna drag the hue from the middle all the way to the left, and then you can see that it gets a more green yellowish color to it, which really looks much better in this concept. And then we can also take the luminance of the matte and drag it down a little. So we're gonna drag it down to maybe 72, and then we are going to adjust the shadows. We're gonna drag down the shadows just a little so you can see that the background is getting a bit darker. And then we're gonna adjust the blacks like that, and then we're gonna zoom in on his face, and we're gonna drag a radial filter by clicking this button, and then we're gonna drag it out over his eye, and then we're gonna make sure that everything is set to 0. And now we're gonna drag up the shadows. We're gonna increase the shadows and drag down the contrast so we get some details back from his eyes. And we can also increase the highlights a little so that you can see that it brings back his eyeball a little, and we get this shininess in the eyeball. So if we look at the before and after now, you can see that there's plenty of things that has happened just in this short period of time. So next up, we want to adjust the crop. If you want to have an Instagram crop that is optimized for the Instagram flow, then you want to have the crop at 5:6. And if you don't have the 5:6 in your roll list, then you can just enter custom, and then you can write 5:6. All right. And if you want to change this to a landscape orientation, or maybe from a landscape orientation, then you'll hit Shift X. Then you can see that it changes the orientation of the crop. So if your image is a landscape image and you want to have a portrait crop, then you just hit Shift X while in the crop mode. We're gonna drag this out from edge to edge all the way like that, and we're gonna choose the crop somewhere around here. And to change the crop overlay, you can hit O, and then you can see all these different overlays that are here, and then you can use the rule of thirds to place your images as you want. So for example, I want to have my image like somewhere around here, I think. This is a really good crop. Look at that. That is a really good image, but we're not really there yet. We're gonna drag down the vibrance a little. We're gonna drag it down to -10, and then we're gonna up the dehaze just a slight touch. And we want to drag down the lights a little, so we're gonna drag it down to -20, and then we're gonna drag up the highlights a little, and then we're gonna drag it to like +10, alright? So the last thing we want to do is drag down the blue color of the image so that the smoke actually looks white instead of blue. So we're gonna mark the blue one, and then we're gonna drag it down. Somewhere around there, -70 should be fine. Right, and then we can see if we can increase the blues a little so we get a little more pop in the smoke, and we're done. So let's open this up in Adobe Photoshop, and to do that you just right click the image, you choose edit in Adobe Photoshop. There we go, we open the image in Adobe Photoshop, and there's a couple of things that I want to change with the image. For example, the napkin that is on his chest pocket here, I want to make that white. So we're gonna do that by zooming in, holding Option and zooming, and then we're gonna duplicate this layer by hitting Command J. And that gives us another layer, and now we're gonna add a hue saturation layer. So I'm gonna press this button, and then we're gonna go all the way up here to hue saturation. We're gonna add that, and then we're gonna drag up the saturation as far as we can and change to a different color. Yellow is fine. And now we're gonna mark the second layer that we just created, and we're gonna hit this button, which will create a mask. So we're gonna add that. And now we want to hit Command I. And we also want to make sure that we are clipping the hue saturation layer to the layer that we just created a mask for. So to do that, we want to hit Option Command G. Now we clip the layer. Now nothing can be seen from the hue saturation layer, even though we turn it on and off. And the reason for that is because the layer below that it is clipped to is masked. But if we do take a brush, we're gonna choose the brush tool. So we're gonna choose a brush at a size of 50 pixels, and then we're gonna choose the right layer, and we're gonna make sure we choose the mask layer. And then we're gonna choose the color white, and then we're gonna start drawing. You can see that? So the reason that we're doing this is because that we want to change the color of the pink napkin to be a gray/white napkin. And to do that, we actually just gonna mask that area. So I'm just gonna finish this up, and then we can continue. Okay, when you got the full area mask that you want to mask, you're gonna go back to the hue saturation layer. We're gonna press this, and then we're gonna drag down the saturation all the way down, and then we're gonna drag the lightness down as well, just a tiny bit to -21. And as you can see, there's still a little bit of pink, but don't worry, we can just adjust this by going back to the masked layer and painting this over with a white brush. So there we go. I'm gonna paint like that, and we got all the way up here on the edges, like down here as well. There we go. Boom. Look at that. And if we look at the before and after right now, you can see that it doesn't show that the original wasn't a white napkin. That is kind of cool, right? All right, there we go. It looks freaking fantastic. It is superb. I really love this image. So before we post this, we want to add a little bit of sharpen to the image, just to give it that extra crisp that otherwise Instagram is removing due to compression. So we're gonna mark all the layers that we have, and then right clicking, and then we're gonna choose group from layers. All right, group 1, that is fine. And then we're gonna hit Command J, so we duplicate that group, and then we're gonna choose merge group. So now we got the final image, but we have saved all the layers below. So if we want to do any changes, then we can always revert back to the group that we saved under it. So the first thing we want to do is making sure that the size is correct for posting on Instagram. And right now it is really big. I've personally found that if your image's smallest size is 1920, then your images will look much better than if you choose 1080. So we're gonna choose that, and we're gonna hit OK. The image is resized, and we're gonna add the final touches, which is the sharpening. To add some sharpening, we're gonna choose Filter, we're gonna choose Sharpen, and we're gonna choose Smart Sharpen. And we're gonna mark Oscar's eye, and then we're gonna zoom into this. We're gonna hit it at 300%, and Right here you can see that there's not a lot of sharpening going on, but this is just perfectly enough for the image itself. So the settings that I use most of the time is 128%, 0.5 pixels, and reduce noise by 33%. And we're gonna hit OK, and we're gonna save the image to web, and to do that we're gonna hit Command Alt Shift S, and we're gonna choose a JPEG. I haven't seen any big difference between high or very high, so for me it works with high. So when you're all satisfied and all done with your image, then you just hit that save button. So now you're probably sitting there, okay, I saved the image to my desktop, but how do I get it up to Instagram? What it's like, I want to have the image over to my phone. How do I do? There is a lot of cloud services out there, and personally I do use Dropbox, and then I just upload the file to a folder onto my Dropbox, and then I open the app on my phone and then make sure that I actually export the image and not just saving it as is. So I want to export the image to my phone to get the full resolution of the image. And when you're done with that, you can post as many images as you like. I really hope that you learned something from this video, and if you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up and don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care. Oh, we're gonna stop everything here. Stop. And we're gonna stop the recording as well.